Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Coach to Transformation's Communities of Practice Executive Coaching Series. Our Communities of Practice is a learning space designed for coaches to come together, exchange experiences, explore real world leadership dynamics, and deepen their understanding of coaching approaches that support their conscious, human centered leadership. In this coaching series, we focus on the topic coaching individuals to build high performance teams. I am your host, Chaitanya, for today's session and I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Nachiket, who will be leading us through the session. Over to you, Mr. Nachiket.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chaitanya. Thank you for making that introduction. How are you all?
All good, Nachiket. Good to see you. Mukund from Pune.
Yes, good to see you too. Right. So let's get started. Okay. Um, I think the idea behind today's webinar is primarily as what I'm going to just share my experience, what I have been doing for executive coaching, what kind of tools I have been using. I will actually take you through a case study. So let me first share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Nachiket.
Is it in
Yes.
a PowerPoint slide mode?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. All right. So, you know, the way I'm going to start is quickly by, you know, doing a poll. I would like you to introduce, not introduce as in go around, but go around the room. But if you can just quickly chat whether you call yourself as a tough battler, a friendly helper, or a quiet reflector. Okay, don't give any reasons, nothing. Just put, what would you like to call yourself? If you can just put it into the chat box. You give a minute and then we'll. Okay. So I see a lot of friendly helpers, couple of few of them quite, all three, okay. But what is your dominant one, Ritu? I would like you to choose one. I know we do, go between the three, but what is your topmost? Okay. So I see a lot of quiet reflectors and friendly helpers here. Okay. And very few really tough battlers. All right, good. Okay. I think this is good to know that a lot of people here are in the room are, helping each other and also reflecting on what's happening around them. Okay, so let's get started. What we are going to do today is I'm going to cover in terms of what kind of assessment tools are potentially available in executive coaching. I have just created a kind of comparison between them. Second, I'll be talking about how I leverage Belbin team role reports for executive coaching, and I'm going to take you through a case study here. Okay. And then when we are talking about executive coaching, when you're talking about leaders coaching, one part is really team. How do you really create a team which is of high performance? So I'm also going to talk about that and how do I leverage Belbin with respect to building teams. All right, good. Okay. So, first of all, why do we or how does assessments really help in executive coaching? One, of course, it creates a self awareness. So, when you share a report with somebody, who is an executive whom you're coaching, it kind of gives an idea about their strengths, what their potential weaknesses could be, what they have not looked at, what kind of behaviors they have, and so on and so forth. Also, when you're talking to them, it becomes like a shared language because we come together and talk about, like, for example, if you use MBTI, you talk about whether you're an extrovert, introvert. So you have some kind of common vocabulary between the two. Also, based on what they have looked at or what their report is, you are connecting their work styles or their individual styles to their professional goals. So whatever they want to kind of do. Another, see, basically, when you are using a report or when you are using some kind of tool, it is data based. So essentially, it also helps you reduce guesswork. And I may be like that. I think here the report talks for itself. Okay. And this helps to fast track a lot of things. So maybe, to discover self, one may take 1 or 2 sessions. Here it can be done much quicker. It can be done in like 1 session or maximum 2 sessions. Okay, so that's basically the idea behind using some of these tools. Okay, some of the tools which are available in the market are, one is MBTI, DISC, Hogan, Belbin team rules, and there are many. Means I have heard about. There is Gallup's Strength Finder. There is I heard about some tool called CB5. There is a 16 personality test. There are multiple of those. Okay, these 3 or 4 I have used at some point, and that is the reason I have looked at these 4. By no means I'm an expert on all these tools except Belbin, of course. But this is just a quick summary as what I feel, what the difference is between the 4 roles. Um, Essentially, rather than talking about other tools, I'll talk more why I use Belbin. Compared to, it's the slide is there in front of you, so I don't want to read out the slide. But essentially, from a Belbin perspective, what I like about Belbin is, number one, it is very simple. Okay, the kind of report I'm going to take you through a case study, so you will see what I'm saying. It's pretty simple. Here, the most important part is the strength is highlighted, but the weakness is not put down. The weakness is also celebrated. What I mean by celebrating weakness, I will talk about it when I actually take you through the case study. Also, the key point which I find the key differentiator, all these tools, you take any of these 3 tools and plus you take any other which I have not put down here, they all depend on your own perception about yourself. So it's about how you think about yourself. Belbin possibly is the only tool which I have come across where a 360 feedback is obtained. Okay, it's not only about how you see yourself but also how others see you, and this is based upon the, what I would say, the behavior which you demonstrate to your colleagues, to your team members, to your bosses, to your subordinates, to your family members, to your friends, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we'll talk about that. But other than that, there is no good or bad in these tools. All tools are good. It's just that what came across to me as a good tool was Belbin team roles, and which I used extensively for when I do executive coaching, wherever I use a tool. Okay. Any questions? I can happy to take one or 2 questions here. Okay. What stage of interaction? So typically, I would take this assessment right at the beginning, depending on how I set the contract. So even before the first session, I do the Belbin team roles, or I may do it maybe after session 1. How often do you use a tool? Whenever the client wants it. So it's essentially client driven. If they ask me to recommend, of course, I recommend. Okay. Let's move further. I've also kept about 5 or 10 minutes for question answers towards the end. Okay. So let's first talk about what this team, Belbin team, I've been talking about Belbin team roles. So let me first quickly introduce you what these are. This will take like 10 minutes to introduce you the concept, and then I will get into the case study, which is actually, you will find this very interesting. So Dr. Belbin in Henley Management College, way back in 80s, 90s, did a research as why do some teams fail and why do they succeed. Okay, and the way he thought about, and the way why he did this research was, he observed a phenomena that when you put together, this is a management college, so they used to put them through a business management simulation, and some of them did very well in spite of putting all the top leaders in a room. They used to fail, whereas you may put some ordinary people there, but they used to come out really well. Okay, so what was the reason that intrigued Dr. Belbin to do this research? And while doing this research, what he found is you need, for a team to succeed, you need a balanced team. And when he meant by balanced team, he said that there are different types of roles which one needs to have within the team. And if you have a good balance of these two team roles, the team is likely to succeed. Now, in this, one of the areas, in fact, to come to this, he also did a lot of personality tests and he did a lot of research around this. But when he talked about these 9 team roles, he found that there is a good balance. Okay. So, what is this team roles? How does he define this team role? Okay. It's the tendency to behave, contribute, and interrelate. The 3 keywords: behave, contribute, and interrelate. Okay. So, how do you really behave with others? What do you contribute to the team? And how do you work together with a person? And I think that's basically a combination what Dr. Belbin came up with. And then he started developing software. Means I just wrote a blog last week, where I got very good response. Actually, it's the artificial intelligence for the team. Okay, it actually provides you insights into how a team is likely to behave, or even how an individual is likely to behave. Okay, and that's what the power of this tool is. All right. Okay, now one question. Do you know this gentleman, these 2 people? Quickly, if you can put it in the chat, who they are? Quickly. No, they are not Rocco. One is Kohli and the second is Dhoni. Right? Both are most successful captains. Both have taken Indian cricket team to great heights. But the functional role what they play, okay, is what the job demands. What we do, what they are supposed to anchor the Indian cricket team. Okay, and that's what their functional role is. And the reason I'm bringing out this functional role is the obvious question is this team role very similar to a functional role? So let's say if I'm the captain, do I need to have a certain style? No. If you take Kohli, he's he's seen as a much more aggressive kind of captain, whereas Dhoni, when you talk about, you're calling him Captain Cool. Um, and the reason for that is what gets demonstrated is their behavior. What we observe is their behavior. And that is how we see them. That is how we kind of look at them. And we find that he's Captain Cool, he's an aggressive, but both are doing the same role. Okay. So, what is about the team role? Okay. They may have a different team role. It's about the behave. It's about how they do it. What is your functional role? So you could be a CEO, CEO, senior vice president, head of HR, head of marketing, head of sales, whatever. That's what you do. But your team role could be very, very different, right? Okay. So now one question to you: what underlies team role behavior? What do you think could be underlying team role behavior? Any, you can type in the chat box. Team dynamics, okay. Can you restrict? Can you talk about what kind of behavior it will demonstrate? Personality traits, excellent. Yeah. Mutual respect. That is about team. I'm talking about the individual. Yes, emotional intelligence, the situation. Yeah. Okay. To do what is expected. Team goals and objective. See, basically, you're talking about teams. Okay. I'm saying that how does a behavior get transmitted? Role play, knowledge, past experience, yes. Values, yeah. Demonstrative way, can you elaborate demonstrative way? Beliefs, yeah. Shared vision, that's again coming to the team part of it. That's again the understanding. Okay. Honesty, that's value. One has to demonstrate and walk the talk. That's like a leader, yes. So what underlies team role behavior is essentially your learning, your role learning. So let's say if you're put in a particular role, what kind of things you have learned there, what kind of external influences you have. Okay, somebody talked about what is the team, what is the vision of the team, what kind of pressure they have, what kind of culture you have, what kind of things are happening in the marketplace. Okay, what kind of past experience you have, where you have worked before, what kind of childhood memories you have, what kind of childhood experiences you have, what kind of experiences you had maybe in a similar kind of a situation, what values do you have, the basic personality of that individual, like an extrovert, introvert, what kind of mental ability that individual had. So all this put together puts across your behavior, and what basically behavioral traits get a kind of facilitated or directed towards your team role. Okay, that's essentially how a team role behave. What that is what underlies a team role behavior. All right, I know I'm going fast, but we have got like 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and I have to cover quite a bit of ground because of what my focus is going to be is really on the case study. Okay? So now here is what Belbin talks about as the case studies. Okay. Um, let's look at Shaper. I'm going to quickly explain to you what these 9 roles mean. Okay. When I say Shaper, you should know what a Shaper means. Just hold on. Okay. So Shaper is somebody who is a hard drive. So I'm explaining the 9 team roles now. Okay. Um, understand that as a basic, because when I show you the reports, when I take you through the case study, this will start making sense to you. So Shaper is somebody who has got strengths in terms of hard driving, who has the objective in sight, who has the end goal in sight, and to get to that goal, he will do anything. When I say do anything, that is where I spoke about celebrating weakness. Okay, he's likely to ruffle a few feathers. He is going to drive hard. He is going to take you there. Okay, come may what. While doing that, he probably may speak rudely, he may speak aggressively, and that's your Shaper. Okay. Now, when you look at Shaper, he's likely to come with some kind of weaknesses. And the weaknesses, I said that, he's not likely to be a very good people person. He's more likely to be aggressive, kind of hard driving, because his goal is to get to the objective. His goal is to get to the end goal. Okay. That's your Shaper. Second is an implementer. Normally I do this like when you do a workshop, it's literally an hour's training, but I'm just doing it very quickly. Implementer is somebody who will plan things, who will organize things, who will make sure that everything is in order. Okay. But when you ask them to do some change, okay, they are not very happy because they have already organized it. They have already created a plan. Okay, now to deviate from the plan is a weakness or a potential associated weakness with an implementer. Dr. Belvin also uses the languages associated weakness with each of the team role. Okay, and that's the reason I'm also using that word. The third is a completer finisher. Completer finisher is the meticulous guy who is a perfectionist, who will get things delivered uh, to the, with the required quality, polished kind of thing. And that's your completer finisher. Now, the associated weaknesses, being a perfectionist, he doesn't like time pressure. Okay. He also thinks that nobody else can do this better than I can do. So possibly he's reluctant to delegate because I can do it best and I know that I can do the best quality. Okay. Then is a coordinator. By the way, these are what they call action roles. Okay? The next is a coordinator. Coordinator is somebody, if you see that the symbol is of that orchestra conductor, the individual is essentially would be able to spot talent. He will know what the strengths, weakness of each individuals are, and then accordingly allocate work. Now, on the negative side, on the associated, he is kind of a person who is likely to offload a lot of things, who's likely to give things away. Okay, he may be seen as a manipulative guy because he is kind of delegating things. He is getting people organized. Okay, the next is a team worker. He will create, or what I would say, overcome the tension between the team. Like, the shaper is somebody who is likely to ruffle the feathers. The team worker can come and calm people down. Okay, he's a diplomatic kind of a guy. Then is a resource investigator, who is an outgoing person, always on the sign is also up a phone. He's the person who will go out, pick up, he will have contacts everywhere. But the person, the associated weakness is, after a while, once things get into motion, he's likely to kind of get bored. Okay, not likely to continue. And these are people roles. And the third category is the thinking role. So plant, creative guy, but again likely to be in his or her own silo. Okay, in their own world, just kind of throwing up ideas. Okay, the evaluator is a very objective kind of guy who will evaluate things very naturally. Okay, he will say what is good about it, what is bad about it, and based on that possibly give the right option for somebody to choose. But on the flip side, the person is likely to be kind of you know very judgmental. He will judge things. He's likely to again say something which others may not like. So he needs to be kind of that kind of individual. And the last is a specialist role. Specialist role you require for any team because you need somebody who works in that area, who is a specialist, who is knowledgeable, who is kind of working in that area, right? So you need a specialist. Again, this person is likely to be focused more on his or her own area rather than looking at a bigger picture. So these are the 9 team roles. This is a quick introduction of these 9 team roles. Means if you have to apply this to, let's say, a startup or any company, you start with an idea, you need a plant. Then you need somebody to evaluate the idea, where you will need a monitor evaluator. After you have that, you need somebody who will organize things, organize a plan, who is your implementer. Okay, then you will need somebody who will kind of get this delivered very well to perfection, and who's a meticulous guy. You need a completer finisher. Possibly at this stage you may also invite a specialist, because that person is likely to have that knowledge in that particular area. Then you need a shaper, okay, who will kind of move things forward, or you will need a coordinator who is going to coordinate between it, and then shaper will drive things. But when you need to want or when you want need external information, what competition is doing, what others are doing, you may need a resource worker, a resource investigator. And finally you will need a team worker who will ease the tension, especially when shaper, monitor evaluator, specialist could be in the team. All right, so this is a very quick introduction about the team roles. All right, I think what type is generally preferred by companies. Okay, so you cannot say that a particular company needs or a preferred this particular individual. It depends on the role of what it is. So if you need somebody in a role where you need a creative guy, possibly you need a plant. But I will come back to these questions in a minute. Okay, so now the question is, do we play all team roles? Okay, what happens typically is you have got certain strengths. By the way, each person will have all the 9 team roles in some combination or the other. Okay. Now, again, this report, as I said, it's created based on your self-perception and your observer feedback. Okay. So there are certain things which are preferred roles to you, which are come naturally to you. And this is what I want to do. So when you are doing executive coaching, you need to look at what is your preferred role. The second is a manageable role where you don't really, what I would say, this is not natural to you, but you can play it if required, if the team requires to play. Okay. And least preferred are something which are where you do not have strengths, where you possibly need to have collaboration. Okay. Where you need to go out, reach out to different people. Okay. How these reports are arrived at, your self perception, input, and insight. So, again, you will come to know. I've put some, okay, I've put some numbers, but it can vary from person to person. All right. Now, let me come to a case study. So, now, firstly, the person, I have changed the name in the report. Okay, so the report which I'm going to show you is for a person by the name Abhishek Joshi. I don't know whether he exists or doesn't exist, but is a uh, person where I have changed the name. Okay, so you will not know who that actual person is. This is typical. What we do is in terms of ethics, you cannot really reveal the client identity, but since we need some kind of name, I've used Abhishek Joshi. All right. So now let's look at Abhishek Joshi. So firstly, okay, let's answer. Okay. So this person is working for a, let's say, a manufacturing setup or an IT setup in a mid-management kind of role. Senior, or when I say mid-management, somebody at a general manager, vice president, that kind of a level. Okay. So what this is first report for Abhishek. Okay. And this report is when I said that there is you need to get feedback from others. A list of words is given. These are the list of words where the observers have to take. Obviously they cannot take each and every word, but they have to take what is applicable to Abhishek or whoever is doing this assessment. Based on that, the report will get. And of course, prior to that, I talked about there's a self-perception questionnaire which one has to fill out, and then he has to invite 4 to 6 other individuals who can give observer feedback. Okay? So Abhishek has got this kind of a response where some words have been done. He had sent it to 6 observers, but you may see that there are more than 6. So certain number of words they have to tick twice, which they believe, where the observers feel that for Abhishek they see it very strongly. So for Abhishek, the top words which emerge as reliable, up to 6, right? So reliable, enterprising, realistic, practical, helpful, hard driving, outspoken, efficient, and analytical. So these are like the top words for Abhishek, where 6 people, everybody has said, are applicable. And then you may see that there is a little italics word here. Okay, pushy or territorial or impulsive. Now, when these, there are words in italics, these are words which has a little negative connotation. Okay, like pushy. So for Abhishek, the first word is pushy. Now, based on this, what I did, okay, being a senior executive, I started looking at how do I coach this individual. For him, I had done this report before the first session. So he said that I will do the assessment first and then we'll start our coaching sessions. Okay. So this is the report. And these are some of the reflective questions I started asking him. How do you value these contributions? How do you feel about the value of your contribution? How do you think these behaviors help you? Okay. When you think about the word in italics, can you think about any incidences, what happened last week, which had an impact on the team? Do you think that the negative words or the word in italics can be managed? Also, if you see, he has got like three words in consecutive, which are kind of having negative connotation: pushy, territorial, and impulsive. So, why he thinks, or why what he believes, does he really believe in those words? So basically you need to ask them when you're coaching that, we learned this theory that you need to coach the person and not the problem. So actually this is about coaching that person. Okay, so what impact it has on the team as a leader, what impact it has on his team. Okay, some of the words which are good, in terms of reliable, enterprising, how does he resonate with those words? What he feels about them? Does he believe that he's of true self? So those kind of questions, those kind of reflective questions, I started engaging him with. Okay, now this is just one report, one of the reports, but this is how I typically start in my journey with that individual. Okay, any other questions you can think of? You can chat, you can put it on the chat. Okay. All right. This is another report. Okay. What I would like you to do is take like 30 seconds and go through the report. I will also take you through, but if you can actually read the report, don't look at the graph. I'll explain the graph later. Okay. Read what is being written here. Okay. Here, the individual strengths are clearly highlighted. The weaknesses of that individuals are clearly mentioned. It also talks about what kind of working relationship Abhishek may have. Okay. And it also talks about what kind of role he could be best suited for. Right. Well, and then on the right, what you have is what are your top roles. So the 9 team roles have been ranked the way you have seen yourself and how others see you. Right. Now, based on this, when you are sharing this report with that individual, okay, first you look at what kind of preferred roles you have, what kind of manageable roles you have, and what kind of collaborative opportunities you have. So the top three are your essentially the roles which are your preferred, the middle one are your manageable, and then the last least preferred. Okay. Now, based on that, I think the report is just an enabler, but start thinking about the questions. What is the unique contribution you are bringing to the table? Now, this is in context of work, right? As a leader, what is your strength? Maybe that person has not leveraged some of his strengths. So, what kind of strength you have leveraged, or you can leverage more? What you have already leveraged? What you are kind of completely unaware of? Okay. This is another report which kind of talks about the work styles. What it does, it takes the top 1 to 4 styles, like 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, and 2 and 3. And basically, it kind of creates a report as what are the styles, or what are the suggested work styles for that individuals. Now, again, based on this, as a leader, they can you can ask them when you're doing your coaching journey, what kind of styles resonate with you. Can you think about some examples where you actually use this kind of work style? So basically they talk about that. Last week when I was with a client, I actually kind of felt that I am like liaising between them and the delivery team, or I'm very good when it comes to assigning tasks to individual because I understand the big picture. Okay, I know the goal very well and I'm a good planner. So based on that, so I think that they start sharing those kind of things with you. Okay, they also talk about that, when it comes to new ideas, I'm not able to generate any new ideas. I kind of use the ideas which I have adopted from outside. So again, you talk about that. Now, also ask them when you are doing executive coaching, or when I have done that, is does your team recognize these strengths? Does the team know that you have these kind of work styles? Okay. So that's another thing which you kind of ask them. Right. These are some other reports. I don't want to get into all the reports because we have like 20 odd minutes. So this is another report. What kind of work environment? By the way, if you are doing, I know that there are some individuals who also do life coaching and other coaching. Even from that perspective, you can use that. Means I have mostly used this in a executive coaching setup, except for two or three where it was generic coaching. Generic coaching, I mean that they came to me as individuals and they needed some guidance on few things. So for those, I have used these reports, but you can so you can use those reports in those scenarios also. Okay, what kind of job I should do, what kind of things when I am presenting myself for an interview, what do I present myself as? So those kind of things you can actually leverage using these reports. Okay, this is basically between how you see yourself and how others see you. This is associated weakness of a particular strength. So let's say that if you talk about resource investigator, these are the strengths, but there are also some negative words which are being used for that particular particular team role. These are individual. Again, these names are changed. Okay, so how others see you. Okay, right. Any questions so far? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next part, which is how do I use this in high performance teams? Which I'm doing an assignment with a company now, but I'll talk about that also. Yeah. Any questions? You can type in the questions. What was the trigger point for the individual to reach out to you to initiate? Okay, so basically, when they came to me as a client, I did, and we had like a chemistry call or a discovery call. At that point, I suggested them that maybe you should look at Belbin, and that is how they use Belbin. So they did not come to me saying that I want to use Belbin. How do you generate? So there is an app, there is a software. We have to buy these reports from them. Right. Okay. Let me move on to the team part of it. Okay. So when you're talking about a team, I think any team is formed for a particular purpose. Okay. It could be anything. It could be like winning the World Cup. If you take or completing this project, or launching a new product, it could be anything. So there is a particular purpose for this, right? So there is a representation, like Dr. Belbin says, that you need to have representation of all the required team roles. Number one, that's number one. Number two, there has to be strengths which need to be exploited, and there should be awareness about individual strengths and the team strength, and also along with the weakness. Because if there are certain things which are in rare supply, you need to bring that out. Okay. For example, let's say there is a particular team. I give you that example. If you're managing a team and you do not have somebody who's good at ideas, you really need to evaluate that whether you need somebody with ideation at that point. Okay, or that that is your weakness of the team. Okay, if there are more people, there is somebody who is like a creative guy, a plant, but that is not that person's strength, but let's say it's a manageable role. How do you leverage that? So you need to bring that out. Also, this is also classic application of Johari window. Conflicts within the team can be resolved. You would know why that person is behaving in a certain way. And when you know that person, like for example, a shaper who's very hard driving, you know he's a shaper, and possibly that is the reason he's behaving that way. Somebody is trying to be diplomatic. You cannot put him in a room and say that make this decision, but that's because he's a team worker. Okay, so you know these strengths, you know these weaknesses, you know that you need representation, and that is how high performance teams are formed. Now when you think about this when you apply this to an individual, now these are some additional reflective questions, for a team performance. I'm doing a top management Belbin, um, Belbin team roles assessment and coaching for a client, a manufacturing client, and there we are starting with the top management where we are started. One of the individual, where do you see yourself, where you can contribute to that team? Okay, what kind of project? So I think here the objective is, when you are going to collaborate, um, especially in a manageable role, what project can I collaborate with, where I can use my strength? Okay, if I do not have a particular strength, so for example, Abhishek, specialist and plant are very low. Okay, are these areas of collaboration? Do you need specialist knowledge of what you're doing? Do you need creativity in this particular thing? Who you may want to reach out to? Now when you're coaching that individual, when you're looking at it, it is not necessarily that it is hierarchical. So it is not necessarily that a manager is a coordinator or a shaper, but a manager can be a plant, he's a creative guy. A subordinate could be a shaper. So how I'm going to leverage that individual strengths in my particular group, in my team? This is where the collaboration opportunities come up. You need to collaborate not only within your team but also outside the team. Can I borrow this individual for a few days? I need somebody who can plan, organize things. Can you lend me your resource for a few days? Okay, these are some areas where you can think about collaborating, specifically from a perspective of team performance, improving the team performance. So um, this, when you are doing executive coaching, especially for large organizations, these things need to be looked at. Okay, this is just a kind of thing which we normally do. So let's say that an additional product specification needs to be included. What kind of team role contribution you need? Why do you need that? And then who are the people whom you can collaborate with? So this is something what actually you do in practice when you are doing for an organization, just to kind of give you a flavor. Okay. Now let me come to group coaching. Sorry, any questions here? Okay. So we are at 18:43. So we have got 5 more minutes. So when you talk about group coaching, Belbin also does something called as team reports. Okay. Now this is a team report which I have pulled out from an organization. Now here you are putting the team together. Okay. This is an example. This particular team has got a sense of shared responsibility. They have got good qualities. They can get on very well because their TW is very high. Okay. Now the strength lies in caring attitude, ability to adapt, respond. But how do I enhance this further? How do I now? These are questions where you do team coaching or group coaching. Okay, especially when you have a team together who come from varied domains, who are from where different groups, different departments, especially when you're doing the top management kind of thing. How do you improve this effectiveness for a particular thing? Who are those individuals who can pay special attention, where they can contribute? Now this, again, this was basically found out from the report that the group may not have enough subject experts. So basically what it means is specialist. So if I want to achieve this as a group, what kind of things I'm going to do? Okay, considering the market environment, considering the expertise what I need, how I'm going to go about it. Now this is where group coaching can be very effective. Okay, because even for group coaching there is something to start with. Otherwise, group coaching, what I have observed, can go in any direction. But here, I spoke to you about when you are talking about a team, it's they start with the purpose. So how you're going to start, how you're going to do it together. So for this particular purpose, how I'm going to get those subject expertise, how I'm going to get those SMEs in place. Okay. So those are some questions, reflective questions for your group coaching, which I've actually used. So these are some kind of examples. Right. Let me see if there are any questions. Any questions? Okay. Okay. How some professionals are not very comfortable with assessments. In those cases, what will be the best way to? Well, if they are not comfortable with assessments, you can't really do engage them with a similar process, because this is based on any of the assessment tools you have. You have to use you know, any tool you use. You need to do some assessment. So then you do your normal coaching. Okay, what you do. How frequently does this behavior change? So behavior, I have observed, and I have been practicing this. I got exposed to Belvin's team roles way back in 95, 96. Okay. You have to decide that your behavior wants to change. Okay. Only then you can change your behavior. But the natural instincts don't die so fast. Like, for example, an individual I know um, was very strong on shaper at one point in time. He was very ruthless, aggressive. But over a period of time, he kind of mellowed down. So there is some change, but again, that person wanted to change. So behavior doesn't really change so easily unless they make a concentrated effort. Now, this question will lead to how frequently you need to do this. You can do it once in a few years. So there is no specific timeline when you do it again. But if you're in a team kind of setting, because there will be attrition, there will be new additions, you can do this possibly once in 2 years, once in 3 years. Okay. Do you coach teams and groups in the same way? So teams and groups I see as same, unless you see them differently. So I didn't understand the question, but yes, teams and groups. In my view, if I'm doing a group of coaches with a particular background or for a particular company, I would do it the same way if I'm using Belvin. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? You may raise your hands if you want. I was very fast, so I know that I did run this very very fast, but I was told that I have to finish by 6:50 and leave about 10 minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, happy to answer those now. You can also unmute yourself and ask those questions. No questions? This is just an experience what I shared in terms of how I have been doing executive coaching for some time now. Also, I've been doing a lot of team coaching using this. This I have also found very useful when people come to me for career guidance, career advice, career change. This becomes, or whether they should take up a particular role or not take up a particular role. Again, this has become very helpful. Um, how Belbin is different from 16 personality factors. See, I think 16 PF is again another assessment tools. I have not used it, so I'll not be able to comment how, but it's again based, the biggest difference what I have seen is it's based on individual perception, whereas Belbin is based on not only about your own perception about yourself, but also how others see you. And I think that's, I would say, the biggest difference between these two tools. Right. Any other questions?
Hello, so this is Chandramohan.
Yeah, Chandramohan.
So, So when you do the assessments from the stage of assessment to a transformation, typically, what are the challenges that you face in this structure? I have a supplementary also, but I would like you to elaborate on the first one, please.
Can you elaborate your question when you
See,
say?
for example, using a Belbin, say, tool, you assess the situation. Say in a manufacturing setup, you had, said that, you were given a task and you were to assess both the leadership and the feedback is coming from the team itself, right? You've undertaken that task and you've come to conclusion that X, Y, Z, there are areas of correction that you need to make, right? Now, as a coach, you are supposed to work and give the solution, align the organization to find a solution to be able to transform from A stage to B stage, what their goal is. How challenging is that is my question. And how much from a theory where we assess to practical implementation in the business itself, what is the challenge? Because that seems to be a biggest impediment in coaching so far.
So, if I understand your question correctly, as from assessment to transformation, what does the journey look like? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. So, firstly, the organization should be committed in terms of they want to make the transformation. One of the companies I'm working with right now, they are willing to take that journey from starting to end. Okay. So number one is assessment. So assessment, what it gives you is how do I leverage my strength? Okay. It also tells you what kind of gaps you have. So I think I shared a slide with you where I talked that for a particular organization, there was a need for specialists in the organization, right? Now that need was recognized in that forum when I was doing a top management workshop. Now, when you know that this is a need, you either look for consultants or you hire those individuals. Hiring also can be done using this tool. Okay, so that's number one. So that's part number one. Part two, when you're doing coaching with this, okay, what is important is to come out with action plans and follow through those action plans. See, the first session is easy because you are explaining the report or they're reflecting on the report. But part two, part three, or the next 2 or 3 coaching sessions is about what kind of action plans they have come out with. Okay, what is it that they want to make a change? With office politics, they are collaboration becomes an issue. I want to safeguard my territory, right? How do I ensure? But here it is in a non-threatening way, because nobody is saying that he is good or he is bad. What we are highlighting is the strength and weakness. And if an organization has to move forward from a transformation point of view, I think they recognize what roles they have to play. So the politics kind of goes little bit away. Yeah, go ahead.
Just the resistance part, because what happens is in transformation, I'm talking from a live example point of view.
Yeah.
So what happens is from a previous generation to a new generation, typically in this new era where people who have, built a businesses from X to Y, successful businesses. Now the young generation has come, they want to transform the organization into process oriented, more global, more modern in nature. Now that's the typical example of a organizational transformation requirement where the readiness to transform is there.
Right.
Would you like to reflect on something like that? That will be a great help, sir.
So they wouldn't sign up with this kind of journey if they are not looking to do transformation. Okay, so I think that is given. Means when because it's a good investment, because it's a significant investment. Okay, if you are going to, like for the organization, I'll share with you what kind of journey we are talking about with this organization. Okay, manufacturing organization having about 3,000 people, employees, top management or management about 100, 150. So the plan is that the phase one is we have done their top management workshop. Okay, we have done 3 sessions of their top management coaching. Okay, and post this coaching, now they are in the process of implementing their action plans. Okay, once these action plans, as they go along, we will do the next level of training and we will also do a little bit of coaching with them. Okay, and that's the journey we see. Also, what we have kind of in discussion with them, we have not done it, but these tools can be also used for recruitment. So there are certain 4 or 5 key positions, because they are looking at about 30% growth next year. So there are about 4 or 5 key positions. So we have suggested, rather than you going randomly, you use Belbin to do assessment also before they join it. And that's the kind of transformation we are looking for. Does it answer your question? Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Right. Also, recently, you may want to look up, but when people talk about AI, this is essentially the AI of human behavior. The kind of predictions it provides, it's amazing. Okay. And I have been observing, I must have read or gone through at least 500 plus assessments, and the kind of behavioral prediction it provides is super. Means people have commented in terms of how can it be so true, but the real power is the observer assessment, because others are observing you, seeing you, putting their feedback down, and that really makes the difference. Okay, it's about collecting data and portraying it, analyzing it, and then reflecting on it. Right, any other questions? All right. Okay, oh sorry, I can see a couple of questions here. Sorry, I did not read. How long does it typically take for individuals to grasp the Belgian language? About half a day workshop, is good enough. Again, depends on what kind of depth they want to get into. If you want to be an accredited trainer, it may take 2 days, but for the individual, it can be to get on to understanding of the language. If I'm doing a one-on-one coaching, even a 1 hour session and then the report, so 2 hour session is good enough. Okay. Okay, it seems to be the best thing. Yeah, it is useful in corporate applications, definitely, but it is also very useful when you're doing one-on-one coaching, or I won't say life coaching, but career coaching, or in that area. I think this is also very helpful. Corporate applications, fair enough. Okay, thank you. Who sets the set of people? Okay, this is a good question. Who sets the set of people who is going to assess? So whoever is taking the assessment needs to identify those people. Those people should have been working with you for 2-3 months at least, for you to for you to know them, because otherwise they can just provide some feedback, but this is something they should be working with you so that the feedback is more accurate. Okay, thank you, Atul. Thank you. All right. How do you prepare the report? It's a software. I do not prepare the report. It's a UK based company who prepares the. Means you have to input everything through a software, and that's how the report gets generated. It's an auto generated report. There is no human interference. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Good questions. If you need more information, or you want to get into depth of any of the case studies, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. Otherwise, thank you once again, and see you soon.
Thank you, Nachiket. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much for your time,
Thank you.
Nachiket.
Thank you.
Good session. Yeah. So everyone, we have shared a link on the chat box. So if please do fill the form in order to receive the CCEU certificate. Thank you so much for attending this session.